Well, for many, Thanksgiving is all about food and family.
For others, it's all about football. Dave Ross joins us now with a look ahead at the Redskins game. Hey, Dave.
Hey, y'all. It's always about football for me. And also for J.I. Halsell, who's come all the way back from Chicago with Priority Sports. But you're a D.C. guy first and foremost. Welcome home. We've had you on the show many times before. Good to be home?
Yeah, happy to be home. Happy to see my parents. Happy to get a great meal yesterday.
Yeah.
Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. We
did. Now, of course, when you're in town, and we'll always talk Redskins, because for 2 years, you were the salary cap guru for the Washington Redskins. Let's get right to it with this team now. We're about a year and a half into the Shanahan regime, if you will. Are they in a better spot financially now than they were, let's say, a year and a half ago? Have they turned over the roster?
Yeah, definitely. From a cap perspective, they're in a great situation. They did a lot of things in the uncapped year to restructure contracts to really position themselves really well in the future years with a salary cap, so that they have that flexibility. And so now as you move forward and you try to figure out, do we need to get younger? Do we need to maybe terminate some contracts? They have that flexibility that they have not had in the past.
All right, let's talk about some of those, I guess, older guys like Santana Moss that are still in the roster, but still performing when he's been healthy. Do you look for more change at, let's say, key positions like that from the Shanahans, or do you think this is going to be... Mike seems to like veterans, right? So I don't know how young they're going to actually go. Had the money to spend, as you just told us. Which direction do you think they'll go?
I think you need to do a combination, and I think that's kind of been the philosophy. You've seen that this year, where they had 12 draft picks, 10 of which have been on the active roster this year. But at the same time, you've seen them sign guys like a Barry Cofield, veteran guys, a Stephen Bowen.
Of Priority Sports.
Of Priority Sports. Barry Cofield is. And so, so, you've seen kind of that combination, but at the same time, when they do bring in veteran players, they've done it in a smart way with the contracts, but have also tried to bring in Leonard Hankerson and try to get some young guys involved.
Some infusion of youth. All right, one of the veterans that they have in this roster is Rex Grossman. You're being in Chicago, I'm sure they have feelings about Rex, too. Is this a guy, though, that I know people around here, it's almost like a bad word when you talk about Beck and Rex, right? Is this a guy that could be on the roster again next year, even in a backup capacity?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, because he understands that offense, and if you figure that they're probably going to bring in a young quarterback this year via the draft, they absolutely have to. You have to bring in a young guy.
Even though Mike doesn't like to do that.
Even though he does, although he did it with Jay Cutler.
Right, then they shipped it off to Chicago.
Right. And so, so there's a track record there of a young guy at quarterback, and a Rex Grossman can serve as kind of that veteran backup. And whether it's Rex Grossman or John Beck, one of those two guys will be here next year.
One of those two guys. I know people don't panic, but one of those two guys will probably be back. Now, one guy that will be here for many years to come, Ryan Kerrigan, we talked about the draft. They got this draft pick correctly. So we know that everybody says, oh, you got to have a quarterback, got to have a quarterback. If they took a quarterback, they couldn't have had 91 out of Purdue. He's been everything you want in a first-round pick.
No doubt, absolutely. But, this is a quarterback-driven league. We see an 11-0 Green Bay Packers, and Aaron Rodgers is the guy who obviously is the lead man on that team. And
former first-round pick, too.
Former first-round pick who sat for a couple years behind Brett Favre. But, Ryan Kerrigan's been an impactful defensive player, since day one. But you've got to get more pieces.
So, again, glass half full when you look at the Redskins at this point from a year and a half into the regime, or would you say, well, we still need a lot of work to do?
Let's call a spade a spade. They're rebuilding, and I know that's a bad word in this town, but they are definitely rebuilding. I'd still like to think, though, that they are, glass is half full, and that they're making strides in the right direction. They just need to get more talent and, let this regime kind of continue to build a culture, and that's what a lot of these new players are doing. Coach Shanahan has brought in a special type of player.
Real quickly, because the last time we had you on, before you went to Chicago, we were always talking about the NFL lockout situation that's going on right now in the NBA. Do you see some similarities there? Do you think this thing will get rectified and we'll have a season?
The thing about lockouts is it's always about the money. And from a player perspective, when you've given on the structure of the system, you can't give on the system and on the monetary piece. And in the NFL, well, in exchange for giving more money to the owners, players got more favorable work conditions when it comes to practices and post-career health. And I think in the NBA situation, what you've seen is that the players have given on both the system and monetarily. They've given or conceded $300 million on average over the next 10 years monetarily. And so, they can't give monetarily and then get a more restrictive system.
When you're talking money, nobody better than J.I. Halsell to break it all down. But next hour, put on your analyst cap. We're going to have some fun, talk about the games from yesterday and Ndamakong Suh. I can't wait to get your take on that. Let's go back to the set for now.
All right, guys, thanks. And the key there from J.I. was the rebuilding that we are in.
They say that every year.
That's well,
I mean, it's true.
Admitted it.
Finally admitted it?
Yes.
Right. So, we just have to...
It's been 15 years of rebuilding. It's time. I'm ready.
He's impatient. He's a little impatient.
Impatient? What are you talking about, impatient?
You don't care. Your Ravens are winning.
I'm a Redskins fan, too.
Welcome back. For many, Thanksgiving is all about food and family. For others, it's all about football. Dave Ross joins us now with a look back at yesterday's games.
Hey, Matt, of course it's about football. And who better to talk football with than J.I. Halsell, who stuck around for the whole hour. Second hit with us this morning. Thanks a lot again, JR.
Thanks for having me.
Let me ask you this, because, J.I., you and I were talking in the green room a couple minutes ago about what you do at Priority Sports, which I find quite fascinating. You used to be a salary cap guy for the Redskins. You kind of switched hats and went to the other side as an agent, right? How's that dynamic?
It's interesting. It's unique. In crunching numbers for the Redskins and doing all the supporting analytics behind, Chris Cooley negotiation.
Sure.
Now I do that for a Haloti Nada negotiation on the agent side of the business. But the blessing in it is that I have those relationships with team guys. So I have relationships with the salary cap.
Redskins, right?
Yeah, built from when I worked on the team side and the league side of the business. And so it makes that negotiation that much easier when you're having kind of a certain contentious discussion, because this is about money.
Right, sure.
People are really heartfelt about that. And so when you have that relationship, it makes it a lot easier.
So if you've got a couple clients, let's say, playing for the Bucs on a Monday night, you might fly down to Tampa to say hi to your boys.
No doubt. And, for example, we represent 4 players with the Green Bay Packers, and we have a player on the Chicago Bears. When the Packers came to Chicago to play, we'll take the Packers, A.J. Hawk, and those guys out to dinner, and that's how you kind of keep them engaged.
Now, the Packers played yesterday, but the focus was not on the Packers being 11-0 after this win over Detroit, but yet it was on Ndamakong Suh. We've got to take a look at what he did, J.I., because I want to get your perspective on this. We'll take a look at what happened here. This is Evan Dietrich Smith that he's engaged with, and shoves his head down to the turf 3 times, and then here comes the foot stomp right there. He'd be ejected from the game. We're going to take a listen to his comments. This is right after the game in the locker room. I guess defending his actions. Take a listen.
That's an excellent block on his part. Ndamakong Suh
I understand in this world, because of the type of player and type of person I am, all eyes are on me. So why would I do something to jeopardize myself and jeopardize my team first and foremost? So with that, that's why I don't do bad things, and I have no intention to hurt somebody. If I want to hurt him, I'm going to hit his quarterback, as I did throughout that game.
I don't do bad things. That appeared to be a bad thing, J.I.
I would agree. And I think it was telling. Mike Pereira, former head of officiating in the NFL, said Suh is not a dirty player. He's a filthy player.
Oh, jeez.
So if that's somebody who used to work in the league office, you can only imagine what Commissioner Goodell is thinking as well.
As his agent, what would you have told Ndamakong Suh before that press conference and, I guess, subsequently today?
Yeah, he would have had a text message waiting for him as soon as he got to his locker. Like, look, these are your talking points. These are the areas you want to stay away from.
Right.
Even if you don't want to speak, deflect and just, defer comment. But say anything but what you just said on that tape.
All right, final minute here. Let's play a quick game of Contender-Pretender. The Cowboys played yesterday. They won, I guess, a tight game, 20-19. Wasn't a very convincing win over the Dolphins, who only had 3 wins coming in. Are they a contender in the NFC East? At least they're leading the division. How about the entire NFC as they take out a cheerleader right there?
I think they're a contender.
Yeah.
I think, DeMarco Murray has been a really good find for them.
Yeah.
And really, at the end of the day, their success is going to be dependent upon Tony Romo and how well he can play.
But they always seem to fade in December, right? So can they get over that hump this year, you think?
Perhaps maybe their early struggles this season, maybe they got that out of the way so that they finish strong.
Very good. How about the Harbaugh Bowl we saw last night? Baltimore and San Francisco, each team, do you think they're both contenders, or is one of them kind of a pretender in there?
I think because San Francisco started out so well that, they're going to clinch the division here in the next couple of weeks. Yeah. So they're definitely going to be in it. Baltimore, I think, is definitely in it to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl.
Do you believe in Joe Flacco?
I think I do. I do. I think he's got some motivation. He's coming up on the final year of his rookie contract, so he's got some monetary motivation to play well.
Without picking guys that you represent, who should we look for in the Super Bowl from J.I. Halsell?
Green Bay Packers on the NFC side, and I think those Baltimore Ravens on the NFC side.
Really? You going with the Ravens?
Yeah.
All right, J.I. Halsell, thanks so much.
Hey,
a DC guy doing big things in Chicago. You can follow him on Twitter at SalaryCap101. Sarah, let's go back over to you.